sometimes it's not the actions that we've always been led to believe that we need to take. My dreams are very big. My goals are massive. I have audacious goals, and I have no doubt in my mind I'm going to achieve all of them. But I don't always take steps that look like logical reason is moving me in the direction of where it is that I'm going. Let's talk about change. The truth is, nothing changes unless you change. And if you want to step into your full potential, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is exactly why I have created the InPowered Life community. Within this community, I'm going to be teaching you the exact same mindset and energy practices that I have taught my clients that are paying me well over six figures, including CEO owners of billion-dollar organizations and professionals at the very top of their fields. You're going to get access to 2 live virtual calls every single month with me, where we're going to dive into mindset, energy practices, spiritual principles that are going to help you thrive in every area of your life. Can't make a call? No worries. We're going to provide you with a recording so that you can catch up anytime. Plus, you're going to have the opportunity for direct coaching from me and to learn from incredible guest speakers who are going to share their best practices and growth. Remember, you become the people that you spend the most time with. So why not spend time within a community that is going to elevate you and your life? For an introductory $499, you're going to get a full year of support and coaching alongside high performers who are committed to expanding their careers, their growth, their finances, and to elevate their overall quality of life. Just click the link in the show notes or log into rudiriekstins.com to lock in your spot and start your transformation today. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Aniston Riekstins, and this is the Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Riekstins, and I am your host. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about embodied action. Now, embodiment is a word that seems to be coming up quite a lot lately, especially when we're talking about transformation. I am in the process right now of recording a 6-part series breaking down the methodology that I teach, which is the InPowered Life Method. However, if you have not listened to any of the previous episodes, you can listen to each or any of these in any order, because I am making these standalone topics that you can apply into your life at any point. But if you are looking to create profound change or transformation, those are 2 words I love to use: profound change and or transformation. So the 2 words, profound change, is what everybody is really seeking. We want to be something different. We want to have something different, but we don't want it to be marginal change. We want profound shifts and or change, and that equals transformation. My goal in any episode that I record, whether it's interviewing somebody or whether I'm doing a solo episode or Anis and I are just having an extension of the conversations that we have on our couch all day, every day, is that there is a shift in you, that when you can create a micro shift in your awareness and you look at that micro shift in the moment, it feels really small. It's like a aha moment, a moment where you contemplate something, you think about it, and you realize you'll look at that very differently forever moving forward. Well, that in that moment is really small, but over time, compounded, you really start to see the tremendous shift or changes that some of these ideologies, these ways of thinking or ways of being, really carry the potential to give you that ultimate shift that you're looking for. There isn't a person that doesn't want to have or be or do something and to achieve something. For so many people, that seems to evade them. I talk about this so often because I'm so passionate about supporting people in creating change in their lives. But for so many people, they simply make one change or one adjustment, and then they're frustrated that what it is that they're seeking doesn't seem to land. And the reason for that is that there are so many levels to creating change. We have spoken about all the different levels of awareness that are required in understanding what have you been doing, what could you change if you wanted to create the change, what has been holding you back in creating the change, what are the beliefs that you believe about yourself in the change, because there's so much information to unpack there. And then really identifying with what it is that you really want to have and be and do, and who does that person need to become. Well, that is where this episode comes in today, and that is really about taking embodied action. Now, to really understand what does the terminology embodiment mean, it is about becoming the end result of what it is that you most aspire to have. Many people, they know they want something. They may even be able to articulate what it is that they want. But when I say to people, I want you to connect to the end result feeling of what would it feel like to have that. Well, there's a small percentage, I wouldn't say it's everybody, but there's a small percentage of people that say to me, I can't even connect to what that feels like. I don't even know what I would feel like if I had what I want because I'm so far from what it is that I'm seeking. And that's what makes this episode so incredibly invaluable because you don't become what you want. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. And you have to become the end result of what it is that you're most aspiring to have. Whether it is a external, physical, tangible thing that you're wanting to bring into your life, well, it's still going to create an impact in your inner life. And you have to create that inner shift within you in order to align to what it is that you're seeking outside of you. Now, this episode is really about talking about being the embodiment of what it is that you're wanting. So, creating a shift in your awareness, in your mind, in your body, and then taking very specific action in order to achieve that. I've actually thought long and hard about this episode, about how do I want to bring this episode to you that's going to serve and support you in the best way possible. Because the embodied action is really about you taking future action as the future identity of what would it be like for you to already have achieved what you want, or to have the thing that you want, or to be in the relationship that you seek. What would be the future identity actions that you would be taking if you already had that? And could you begin to take some of those actions today? You see, for the majority of people, they're actually in the past. They're taking actions in the present, but it's conditioned behavior of who they used to be, showing up of what it is that they wanted to do instead of who they want to be today. An example of that is so often about health and wellness. People still have the old conditioned habits of the past of maybe eating the sugar or over consuming, or maybe not making the best choices for what it is that they can do, or quitting and not going to the gym or not following through. That's not the person they aspire to be making the decisions. That truly is a conditioning of the past. And what you need to do is to be able to create the identity today, the identity of the version of the future potential of who you're going to be once you have what you have. And then start to ask yourself the questions of, like, man, what would I be doing if I already had that? What would that person be doing today in order to get that? And could you then start to incorporate some of those steps so that you can create the momentum of what that person would be doing? So that those momentum steps that you take every single day can become habits, and that can become the new conditioning, not the conditioning of who you used to be, but instead the conditioning of who you aspire to be, as if you already have that. Far too many people are every day taking steps towards the life that they want to live, but they're doing it out of fear. They feel the pressure building of who it is that they want to be, instead of falling back into the steps of the confidence of knowing that it's coming, falling into the emotional energy around you. And I'm going to give you tangible examples of what does this look like, of being somebody who's in the trust that what it is that they're aspiring to have is already on its way, or they're acting as if they already have it, so that you can create that new way of being, the new way of showing up and living from the place as if you already have it. Now, I've touched on these topics many times in many different variations, especially even over the course of the podcast. But for the benefit of anyone that's coming to the show, they've never heard it before, at least today, you're going to be hearing it as a new version of yourself. If you've heard it in the past, you're also going to be hearing it in a context that I haven't explained it to you before. But this is for you to really understand the power and then the potential of what does it look like for an individual to embody the end result of what it is they're aspiring, and then taking actions every single day with consistency towards the life that they're wanting to be able to create. And I have so many of these examples of doing this intentionally and then also just accidentally falling into the pattern of behavior until it was very successful. The first very intentional shift for me was having this deep desire to be a coach, to be a speaker, to create impact, to start changing lives, and believing at that time that I needed to leave my corporate job in order for me to be able to create this shift and become the coach. And my wife said to me, "You're crazy. Like, you have people around you right now. Why don't you just start coaching those people?" And that shift for me from looking at myself as, well, I'm in a day job, I am, running a sales team, this is where I'm at, this is what it is that I'm doing, but wanting to leave that so that I could impact people. And she turned around and said, "You have 60 plus people working for you right now. Why don't you touch the people that are in your immediate environment? Why don't you start coaching them, start inspiring them, start changing their lives?" And if I could start to create that level of impact with the people that were the closest to me, then what kind of steps would I take right there and then? Who would I be? How would I walk? How would I talk? How would I act? How would I show up? What would I say? How would I leave them in that room if I had the power or the potential to have their ear for a few moments? And it was a really profound shift for me because I wasn't now just showing up to do my job. I was showing up to do the job that I'd been hired to do as the coach. And so if you show up as the version of yourself right where you are, and you ask yourself the question, what would that future identity action be? Who would I want to be? How would I want to show up? What would it look like to start acting as if? Now, I wasn't making it up. I wasn't faking it until I made it. I just literally started being the version of myself that I wanted to be right there and then. And the people that I was responsible in impacting that were part of my team and that I started pouring into as that future version of myself, their lives beautifully and profoundly changed. Their revenue potentials went through the roof, their relationships changed, their health, their well being, the people that I directly managed, I had such incredible, deep, meaningful relationships with because it wasn't just a job. I started embodying without the paycheck, without the title, meaning for them hiring me as the coach, I just stepped into that role. The value of this that I think is so easily overlooked is, you know, the potential of turning around and starting to coach the people closest to me. That was an intentional choice. And then the act of thinking, how could I be that version of myself right now? How could I begin to coach right now? What would I want to coach? That, again, was a very intentional action on my part, thinking about who would I be if I could already be coaching? And then what would I want to talk about? And then in the moment, what would that version of me say next? How would I respond to this? How would I motivate this person? How would I move this person forward? And that was now me actually connecting into that future version of myself. That was like tapping into the person that already was the coach. And then I started doing the hands on coaching in those moments. And even though there wasn't a transaction between us, meaning they didn't hire me, pay me, and I was then coaching them, I just simply offered and supported them the insight that I already had, the processes that I already was implementing. And I was doing it in the capacity of creating the impact in their lives, not just being their boss. That was when I realized that I already had the qualification to be everything I wanted to be. It was just a matter of, am I going to allow myself to step into that power or that passion? And that's what we're talking about, is really stepping into that future identity. I've done this with health and well-being, where I want to do something, I go to the gym and then I fall off. I bet that sounds very, very familiar to the majority of you listening to this episode. But when I was sitting in a room one day and I identified the version of myself that I aspired to be and realized that I was not that version, I happened to be breaking bread with a group of men, and I was sitting there realizing, man, we're all the same age, and yet I was the smallest man sitting at the table. And I don't mean with height, I just mean in physical frame. and in fitness and in capabilities. And it was sitting at that table that evening, I realized, wow, I am conditioned by my past. I am literally the person that is sitting here today based on all of the actions that I've always taken. And every time I say to myself, this is who I want to be, this is where I want to go, this is what it is that I want to do, and I start taking action in that direction, something keeps stopping me because I have the dream, I have the goal, I have the desire. And for the most part, if I look at all of my life experience, man, I have the drive and the tenacity. So, what is it that is holding me back? And then I started from the very next day. How was I going to show up now? And I started intentionally connecting to what is the version of me that I aspire to be. And so when I would go to the gym and it would be hard and it would be tiring, I would do the workout and I'd push myself even further. But you see, here's the thing, I always did the workout, I always pushed hard. That wasn't my problem. My problem was coming home and eating as the person who is wanting to have the body, wanting to have the physique. And I always got stuck with what was I consuming. Now, the quality of the food I eat is always the very best. I've been very clear, very intentional about what I put into my mind, what I put into my body, because, what you eat is your frequency. And I'm going to tell you now that anything and everything that you aspire to have and be is going to be directly tied to what it is that you consume, what goes into the vessel that you were using for this experience. And I mean the physical experience of being here on earth. And your body is truly a sacred temple. And so I treat my body as such. But when I say that I was going to the gym and I was lifting the weights and I was doing the hard workout, but I would then come home and I would skip lunch, or I wouldn't drink the protein shakes, or I would eat smaller portions because I felt full. So I wasn't fueling my body. So my body wasn't being given an opportunity to grow. And when I did the future identity action analysis, that was just truly an exercise of sitting down and saying, what would be the steps required? Who would I be? How would I show up? Well, I noted that that person would be a little more intentional about eating more calories. That person would be very intentional about eating more protein. That person would be very intentional about taking creatine and supplements. And so it was really just looking at where was I falling short in some of the actions. And in majority of them, I was doing really well. But it was only in adding all of them together that I started to notice the shifts in my body. I started to notice the shifts in my strength. And then, yes, in the muscle mass and all the other benefits that come. Now, for many people, listening to an episode talking about embodied action is going to make sense to you. You're going to listen and say, okay, well, you know what? It makes sense that you need to act as the end version of who you want to be. And you need to connect to and then identify what are the steps that you can be able to take. But what I want you to do is just to challenge a little further the thought process of what does this really mean? And I have a very specific story that I want to share with you as it relates to how I take embodied action.
Hey, it's Aniston Riekstins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new number one best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online or click the link in the show notes.
Embodied action to me is not just about taking very specific steps to move me forward as it relates to who I want to be or what I want to do. Meaning, if you want to be strong, you're going to go to the gym and lift weights. Like that, we have logic there. Totally get it. I'm talking about the embodiment of the total version of who it is I aspire to be. And if I were to net out, who does Rudi want to be in the future, assuming he has everything that his heart desires, meaning he has the resources, he has the relationships, he has the health, the well being, the incredible family, kids, business, creating impact? Who's that guy? Well, that guy's going to have a tremendous amount of joy. He's going to have a lot of joy in his life. He is going to have a lot of freedom in his life. And he's going to have a lot of passions that when he does anything, he's going to feel really lit up. And that guy's probably not going to do a whole lot of things that don't light him up. And so when I am thinking about embodied action and me being the end result, the future identity of who I aspire to be and what actions would that version of me take, sometimes it's not the actions that we've always been led to believe that we need to take. My dreams are very big. My goals are massive. I have audacious goals, and I have no doubt in my mind I'm going to achieve all of them. But I don't always take steps that look like logical reason is moving me in the direction of where it is that I'm going. And here's where I want to challenge you. When I described the embodied version of me in the future that hasn't achieved all of what he aspires to do, I used a very particular word to describe, well, what would that guy feel like? Well, he would be in joy. And so joy is a really important indicator for me today. And when I'm working really hard on a project and I'm moving something forward, maybe it's, penning a book, or I am working on a course or a program or recording podcast interviews, or maybe I'm coaching a number of clients or traveling extensively and I have a lot of things that are going on in my world. Well, I have to create time and space for joy. There needs to be a tremendous amount of joy in my life. And I have had moments where I've been in the middle of a project. I have a deadline. I need to finish a certain number of things. I only have so much time to do them. And I get caught up in the moment where I'm no longer in joy. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. The act of what I'm doing has lost its luster. The thing at the end result, yes, I have passion for what I'm creating, but I've lost it in the moment because I've got caught up in the doing and in the moving forward, and it almost feels like this is a past conditioning of like hustle and work and move, where I have just absolutely stopped. It is like pulling up the handbrake and saying, you know what, I need to take a break right now. And going outside, grabbing a shovel, getting some compost, and, turning the soil in my flower beds, or creating a walkway with some stone steps. And I'll never forget having a conversation with Aniston where she said to me, I cannot believe that in the middle of the week, this is what you're doing right now. Like, with all we have going on, you're outside and you're just going to work in the yard. And I said to her, like, this actually grounds me. I need the space. I need to do something that is just for me, that is lighting me up, that fills my soul, where I feel at peace. And I started working in my garden, and I literally started planting and moving and going to the store and coming back from a nursery with 30 or 40 plants in the back of my pickup truck and planting. And that turned into a 3 or 4 day project. And here's the beauty in this is that when I returned to joy outside of what logic would have said I should be doing to move forward, my business moved forward exponentially faster. Aniston now calls them, my money projects. And that when I step away from what is my day to day inside my business and I do something, maybe it is a home project. 2 years ago, I ripped up the stairs. We have 3 staircases in our home, and I ripped them up and I installed all the new stair treads and stair railings. I took up carpet and took up the old floors and then put down new beautiful flooring and had these stairs installed. It was just, I mean, for me, it was a 3 month project. Every day at the end of work, I would tinker for an hour, hour and a half, and it again took 3 months. But I got so much joy in working on that and then being able to step back and look at what I had done. And we have been able to correlate that every time that I actually step away and create a project that's outside of my business, more people come into my company, more people come into my work. I book more speaking engagements, more opportunities come. And there's a lot of logic in this. Even though I'm doing something that is outside of what it is that brings me money, so carpentry or outside working in the yard, is I am calming my mind, I'm calming my body, I'm allowing thoughts to come through, my energy shifts. I start to feel a lot of joy in the moving of my hands, the workmanship, the doing a project and being able to, as I'd said a moment ago, step back and look at what it is that I've done. After an hour or 2 hours or 3 or 4 days, you can see how much progress you've taken. Whereas in so many projects that we do in our lives and in our businesses, we could be invested in them for months and not see the fruits of our labor. Whereas here, whenever you're doing something that is physical, you get the tangible taptic feedback almost immediately. And for me, that is the most beautiful form of taking embodied action because in those moments, I am in joy. I am in my nirvana. I'm in peace. It is just me with my mind. I'm being creative. My mind is creatively stimulated. I'm thinking, I'm detached from what it is I'm doing. And all of a sudden, incredible ideas start to come into my mind. I think of new ways to create impact. My phone dings and there's an opportunity, and then I get an email and there's another opportunity, and it just seems to really create these expansive moments. And so I have expansion projects that I will just pause whatever it is that I'm doing, connect to that, and then come back into what it is that I'm creating. Your job in this episode today is to really challenge yourself. Where can you start to step into the future of who it is you aspire to be? Connect to that individual, that person, the personality, the actions, the ways of being. What would you do? How would you think? How would you feel? Who would you walk with? And how would you talk? How would you dress? And start to embody that action as if you already are that person right now, creating that inner shift of not what you want, but how you can already be it. And then start taking action. Connect and align to what would it feel like to already be you, being that extension of the version of who it is that you aspire to be. And then could you start being that person today? Could you start feeling like that person today? And then if you are in the process of doing something and you don't feel connected to the version of you that is already having and being and doing and achieving, then what could you do today, even if it feels like in that moment a sidestep, a deviation from what you should be doing, to just bring a little more joy into your life? It could be as simple as a 2-minute walk outside with no shoes on, on the grass, feeling your connection to Mother Nature. It could be hugging a tree, it could going for a surf or walking a beach, riding a bike, talking to a friend. But it's creating these very clear and intentional shifts where you connect into that expansion, the feeling of growth inside of you as it relates to joy or fulfillment or freedom, seeking out what it is that you essentially want, but bringing it and anchoring it into your present day. My last thought for you is this: if you have been a certain way and you have achieved a certain number of things in your life, whatever that may be, you've only ever achieved it because you consistently showed up in a particular way that drove that particular behavior. Let's go back to the analogy of health and well being. If you are not in perfect health, you're only in perfect health, not because one day you picked up a can of soda, drank it, and got 34 grams of sugar into your bloodstream, and that's it, boom, you became diabetic, or you're overweight, or you didn't go to the gym one time. It's compounded, consistent actions as a certain way. Now, you either were conditioned to be that way, you accidentally picked up habits along the way, maybe somebody instilled a certain practice or belief in you along the way, but the reality is, you have very consistently showed up in any particular form or fashion to get what it is you have today. And in order for you to create the change, you have to bring in a new identity. You've got to bring in new actions that meet or match the identity of that person. And then you've got to override the conditions of who you used to be and consistently show up as the new version. You're going to fall off, you're going to make mistakes. That's our next episode. But when you do, it's about what are you keeping the commitment front and center of the version of yourself that you're aspiring to be, and showing up more consistently as that version. And if you can show up consistently as that version of yourself every day in every way, just keep showing up again and again and again and again, you're going to have the same as I started the episode today. A shift in your awareness will be a small, subtle shift today, but thinking that shift in awareness again and again and again compounds over an extended period of time. And if you were to draw two lines on a piece of paper going in different directions, you would see how big that expansive arc is over time. You need to be able to create consistent shifts and changes that day by day by day, consistently done, is anchoring you into the person that you're aspiring to be, but you're anchoring it now, which essentially means you're becoming the version that you aspire to be, which means you will eventually be that version. And the more you do that, the faster you align, not only through action, also through belief, but energetically, you're going to be drawing in that version of yourself. And this is about taking embodied action and bringing it into your every single day. In the majority of my meditations that are available on my website, feel free to go out and check out my meditations on the resources page of rudiriekstins.com. I often will ask in the meditation is, I want you to imagine what would it feel like to be that version of yourself? How do you walk? How do you talk? Who are you? Who do you hang out with? Because when we can start to think about that version of ourselves now and then anchor that emotion now and then take steps from that version now, we already are the version we aspire to be. Everything that you want to have, be, do, and achieve is already within you. It is the InPowered Life podcast. We are teaching the InPowered Life methodology, and it is always about reminding you that you already are everything that you want to be. You were born perfectly equipped to be the version of yourself that you aspire to be. The seed, the dream, the goal, the desire that you have, well, that was planted on you. You didn't make it up, it was given to you. You're meant to bring it out, you're meant to birth it. It is your destiny. But it is going to require you to stop being the conditioned version of the past so you can identify with the new version of who you really want to be and then take those necessary steps. And when you do, you will live the most beautiful and abundant life imaginable. I love you guys so very much. Thank you for joining me in the Empowered Life podcast. I am going to ask that if there was something in this episode that really, really triggered you, created a shift, something that is supporting you in creating the change so you can be the version that you would love to be, I'm going to ask you to reach out. I would love to hear from you. I'm also going to ask you to share this episode with anybody that you think might need to hear this right now. It is in you sharing this episode is how we grow the reach of the podcast. We are right now sitting at one of the top 20 podcasts on iTunes for self-development in the US. And I could not have done that without the incredible and generous shares from you, the audience. So thank you so much for doing that. Again, I appreciate you. I love you. And I am excited to continue to have this discussion with you so that you too can one day be living your highest and your greatest potential, impacting, inspiring, and uplifting everybody, not only yourself, but every single person that has the privilege of interacting with you, because that is, at the end of the day, the meaning of it all. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Empowered Life Podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.